In that final 2-3 week stretch, right, where things start to intensify, and it looks like you might actually get this over the line with Sitio. Them acquire or merging with you brings them into the DJ, the Bakken, and the Mid-Con. Up to that point, they were, if you remember originally when they got the assets from Desert to form Desert Peak, they were pure play Delaware. Then they did a couple of mergers with Source, and that brought them into the Midland Basin. And then they merged with Falcon, which brings them into the Eagle Ford. But then they do the two Momentum and Foundation deals, which swings the pendulum back to Permian. Now merging with you guys brings them into these three new basins. Can you just talk about, was there a dialogue around that diversification element to the merger?
I think they like the diversification. If you think about Noam and Chris and kind of Kim Ridge and their background, both finance guys. And so I think being, that finance individual, portfolio diversification always is kind of at the forefront of your mind in terms of, and when you think about it's minerals, and we talked a lot about shareholders about this, is diversification amongst basins, diversification amongst operators, because if any one event happens in any one basin, you don't, take a big hit if something happens there, or perhaps if an operator runs into trouble, it doesn't impact your quarter. And so, I think their interest was, when you looked at, although, I think we're about 86,000-ish acres, net royalty acres, inclusive of Avant, when we sold to them, about 50% of it, Permian, that, the quality of the asset that we put together in the DJ, in North Dakota, in Oklahoma, just really resonated with them. Again, tier one geology, always our thesis behind our acquisitions under great operators. And so when you looked at our portfolio on a map, you looked at who the operators were, the current activity levels, it just made all the sense in the world that these are high quality assets that we can give significant value to, and not just the Permian piece. And so, I think, and then it allowed them to further scale up, create float liquidity for their shareholders. So I think it checked a lot of boxes for them in terms of, continued core geo in basins, still liquids rich, which I think is important to them, across a lot of different operators. And so, I think they really valued that diversification across basins, across operators, and they were obviously able to ascribe a significant value to that. And ultimately, we're able to get a deal done that we think was a win-win for shareholders, and in particular for our shareholders, created a lot of value.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a happy medium between what Royalties portfolios typically look like, that were built over the last 2 decades, scatter plot all over 16 states, interest, conventional, unconventional, cow pasture, you name it. But there's that, and then there was, let's be super rifle shot focused like Avant's portfolio was. I think it was Martin and Midland only. And then there's diversification, but each part of the portfolio is pretty focused. So the Bakken part, the DJ part, the Mid-Con, Permian, Eagle Ford, these are all core positions. There's a story to tell. And I think that kind of happy medium, it gives diversification, like you said, across commodity, basin, operator, et cetera. But then it's not this like big confusing, combination of assets. So I think as a public CEO, that story is easier.